This is Dr. Charles Shidlofsky, and we have another edition of Neuro-Optometry for ODs on Facebook. So what we're going to talk about today is visual snow syndrome. And this has been a pretty hot subject in the field of neuro-optometry and neuro-ophthalmology, for that matter, for the last couple of years. It has really kind of risen to the forefront. And really what this is visual snow people with visual snow feel like they have things like snow or dots or pixelated buzz or bubbles or static in their vision. And that's really one of the main symptoms that they tend to see. But they can also have hearing and cognitive deficits as well. We don't know what the exact cause of this is, but we suspect that it's related to a hyperstimulation of some of the visual centers in the brain, particularly in the thalamus, the superior inferior colliculus, for one. And what they complain about, once again, are these snow-like dots. Almost think of it as a static on a TV set. That floaters or flashes, palinopsias, starbursts, and halos. And then they also can get things like tinnitus. Many describe depersonalization. And there's a couple of comorbidities we see with this as well. Quite frequently, we see a comorbidity of migraine headaches, or depression and anxiety is a really common one. Someone who's had a neurological injury, like a concussion, that's another common one. Many of them complain also about things like brain fog and confusion, muscular pain, neuropathies. They get tingling in their fingers and their toes. They can have insomnia, and just a generalized pain throughout their body. So I think what happens is there are probably more people in the population that have this than we know about. What was considered a very rare thing has now been estimated to be in about 2% of our population. And once again, you got to look out their history and be sure kind of what's going on. Are they having migraines? Do they have things like anxiety and depression? Are they a type A personality? Those seem to be very common things with it. The other thing we saw recently is we see a kind of a high intelligence in many of these patients. So what we were able to do is really how this all came about for us is I was working with a college baseball player a few years back who had symptoms of visual snow. And I've actually heard these symptoms over the years. And usually when we're doing vision rehab, many of the symptoms had dissipated. So when he came in, I said, let's do the things that I've always done to help people with visual processing issues, and let's see if that makes a difference. And it turned out that after we did therapy with him, his symptoms were totally dissipated. In fact, he went back to playing college baseball the next year. And what ended up happening was he was leading his league in hitting, and then COVID hit. And then, interesting enough, a couple of the TV stations in the area near his college did some reports about him. And then ultimately Sports Illustrated picked this up. And then when Sports Illustrated got a hold of it, and I started getting calls because he had mentioned my name in the article in Sports Illustrated. And ultimately, I got a call from an organization called Visual Snow Initiative, and they connected me to another optometrist out in California who was working with some patients, and we decided to put together this study. Now, the study was of an interesting design. What we tried to do is we had the hypothesis that if we improve somebody 20%, that their life may improve by 80%. And we kind of went with this as the hypothesis. And what we found out as a result of the study ultimately was that about 10% of the people didn't have much improvement. About 80% of them had improvement to a point where, hey, I still have visual snow, but on the other hand, it doesn't bother me anymore. It doesn't bother me as much anymore. And then we had about 10% that had total resolution of the visual snow. And that's really exciting news, because this is a disorder that has baffled physicians and optometrists for many years. No one really knew how to make this go away. They've tried all sorts of drugs, all sorts of other types of treatments, and nothing has improved. Yet here we found a very relatively simple solution from a visual standpoint that improved them. So that's really the exciting news. And what I have to tell you today is that we are going to reveal the results of our study in a audio and video broadcast that will be broadcast on April 16th. If you go to the visualsnowinitiative.org website, and that's just as it's spelled, and we'll put it up here on the screen, visualsnowinitiative.org, you'll see a link to join in the video. The video reveal, if you will, of the results of the study, and you'll also be able to get it afterward, I believe, as well, once the initial video is shown. And on that, they interview myself and Dr. Tsang, and we go over all the results, and then you'll see some interviews with some of our patients who have undergone the treatment. So I hope if you have an interest in this, you'll listen in on April 16th. And if you have any question as you move along, let me know. Reach out to me, and we'll put up my email address so you can email me. And lastly, what I'll say is that the way we're going to disseminate this information to the optometry community is going to be, we're probably going to offer some courses on treatment of visual snow syndrome for certification. So in order to do you'll do the course, you'll gain a certification in visual snow, and then you can treat patients with visual snow syndrome. And with that, I'm going to call it a segment, and look forward to being back out here with you in the next month or so with some more interesting information about neuro-optometry.